All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation entitled Let's Talk About Race. This is Chicago Adventure Therapy, and here we go. My name is Zabari Vidor. I'm a BC kayak and canoe coach. I'm a graduate of Howard University. My favorite color is purple, and the pronouns that I use are she, her, and hers.
Okay, I am Andrea Hansberry. I'm a two-star paddler. I'm really passionate about activism for marginalized groups. My favorite color is purple too, and I use she, her, hers pronouns.
Hello, my name is Roxy. I enjoy playing video games. My favorite food is Cajun shrimp fettuccine alfredo. My favorite color is black, and I love coffee. Also, I use gender-neutral pronouns.
So my name is Andrea Nepper. I'm the founder and director of Chicago Adventure Therapy. I love water. When I was a kid, anytime we went anywhere near water, my mom had to pack a set of dry clothes because I would end up in the water. I use she, her pronouns.
Here's a little bit about Chicago Adventure Therapy. We're an organization that works with Chicago youth who would usually not have the opportunity to get outdoors and build hard skills, soft skills, life skills, and leadership skills.
So when we started talking about this presentation and started planning it, one of the first things we talked about and asked ourselves was, is it relevant? And is it important? So let's talk about race. We do think it's relevant. We do think it's important. And here are some of the ways that we think it's relevant and important, and why we think it's relevant and important.
So Kat does a lot of traveling and a lot of like going to different symposiums and things like that. And while we're usually one of the only groups of color there, so we need people to know how to not make us feel comfortable, but like make it so that it's a welcoming, comfortable space for all people, not just for your typical paddler.
So one of our young people who presented at the Quiet Adventures Symposium thought it was really, really important to make sure that people know that as paddlers who tend to be an older demographic retire, we're going to need young people to take over, and we're going to need young people to take over the leadership of this sport. And the demographics of this country are more and more diverse, and so if young people are going to take on the leadership of this sport, it has to be young people of color. And so we have to be able to make this a sport where young people of color feel welcome and like they are participating in something that is their culture, not stepping into somebody else's culture.
All right. So the point of this presentation is basically to gain a better understanding of the experience of people of color in the paddling community, and basically learning how to improve day-to-day experiences.
So, as we were doing this presentation, we came up with some things that we would like you, our audience, to know. Some common experiences that we share and would like you all to know is that just because you have not experienced it, or it's not an experience that you've had in your lifetime, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So any experience that our young people have that maybe someone else in the audience or in the paddling community has not had, it's still something that happens. Another thing we want you all to know is that everyone has people of color who are friends, and we're not knocking that, but we just want everyone to know that not everyone is the same. Not everyone is that one friend that you have. And of course, staring. We get a lot of stares when we go into a community that we don't look like the people who are there. So there are friendly stares, yes, but staring is still rude, and we prefer not to be stared at. Of course, last but not least, we all have different stories. Cat is full of people from different backgrounds and different stories, and no two stories are the same. So we just wanted to let everyone know that.
Cool. So this one is the one a little bit about us.
So just more about CAT as a community. We are very capable paddlers, and like we know how to function as human beings and as paddlers and as people. Just another reiteration, like no, even though we're all like very capable people and we're all here together, we're not the same. We come from the same city, but and not even that. We live in the same city right now, but we don't have the same story or the same background. And the one thing every person in CAT shares is that we all love paddling and we all love like nature. So two of the main things we want you to think about as you're within this presentation and even after you leave is how you in your everyday life interact with young people of color, and then how do your beliefs influence how you interact with them. I think a lot of the times when we're at symposiums, like in classes, people sort of assume that we don't know things even though we know them, or just because we don't have the vocabulary to say what we're doing means we don't know how to do it, which isn't often the case.
Some interactions I've noticed is because CAT has such a wide variety of young people at different skill levels and different experiences in the paddling community, I feel like as soon as they see our group of people, they just assume we're all there to learn and beginners. And so they treat us all as if we're young people who don't know what they're doing. And so like amongst us, we have several coaches and people who have 2-star and up skills. And so it's more like, oh, this is how you do this, is how you do this. And I'm like, I teach people how to do this, but thank you. I also feel like some interactions feel, it feels like people are walking on eggshells.
Absolutely.
Will you guys say a little bit more about that?
It feels like people are either afraid to like offend or like don't want to say something wrong, or it feels like they think that we might like, I guess, snap at one wrong word or something, and like that just talk to us like you would talk to anyone else.
Yeah.
So if I could kind of piggyback on what Zabari and Deandra have just said, as a white person, I often feel like I'm just going to say something really dumb. And I have said really dumb things, really, really dumb things. So I would just say to white people, you know, just embrace the awkwardness. You're going to say dumb things, and instead of trying to sort of police yourself, that shows, and you just kind of end up making everyone else as uncomfortable as you are. And I have often found that if I just like run headlong into the awkwardness, then we get to the other side of it and we can all be just a little bit more real.
Yep.
I guess the summary is just like, talk to us how you would talk to like anyone else at a symposium, and if you say something that may be stupid, like be open to, I guess, not criticism, but like be open to being corrected. And don't take it as like a terrible thing if you are corrected, just like a learning experience.
Exactly. Yeah, people say stupid things all the time, and we all talk about it, get over it, make a joke about it, and move on.
Right. All right. Do ask, don't assume. Make sure to use open-ended questions, and also don't hover. Some of us actually have way more experience than you may think, and most of all, don't be afraid.
So we think that you can always learn more from anyone, regardless of their background. So no one knows everything.
So I think everyone code switches to a certain extent. Just because like the way you talk to your friends is probably different than the way you talk to like your boss or your like someone at work or like a customer at work. But with people of color, it's often um, more prevalent, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. But because of the way a lot of us speak, like to our friends, isn't seen as, even within like a paddling group, which is not usually like the most professional atmosphere, it's still not seen as like okay or I don't know.
So, uh, Julie, who's one of the members of this group and was part of the planning of this presentation, I think also spoke to code switching, even though she was talking about something a little bit different, when she said that people shouldn't have to change who they are when they come into a group. So whether it's Cat PC or another paddling group, they shouldn't have to change who they are. And so one of the things that she asks that the paddling community do is that we don't ask people of color to assimilate, because the paddling community in general is a pretty white culture. And so when we ask, and it's an old white culture, and so when we ask young people or people of color when we invite young people or people of color into our community, but then ask them to assimilate, we are not being as welcoming as we think that they are being, as we think that we are being.
I can say something.
Okay.
So another thing that we came up with as something that the paddling community can do is to invite people of color and youth as groups, and not just one person or maybe two people, but to bring them in as groups. So they're coming in, it's bringing one group into another, and you're able to mix the two groups versus one person coming in and trying to merge into a group that's already so large and doing their own thing. And with doing that, it's more likely that these young people and people of color will return and continue to be a part of the community.
I think a big part of gaining knowledge and learning how to navigate is just asking questions. If you're unsure about something or unsure about how to word something, don't be afraid to ask in like the most respectful way you can, and like try to use the correct vocabulary, but like don't continue your own unknowing just because you're afraid to answer or ask a question.
Off of what DeAndrea said, it's a two-way thing. So for anyone listening to this presentation or seeing our presentation, communicating and asking questions is a two-way thing. All the young people and people of color who are joining a paddling community or doing a sport where they are the minority in the sport, ask questions, be friendly, talk to people, express yourself in the way that you know how, you as you, and do not try to assimilate. And for people who are in the paddling community and are seeing young people of color, ask questions, be yourself, and don't be afraid to take in someone who's different.
Like if you're a young person of color or a young person in general coming into the paddling community or any community, if someone asks you a question, try not to automatically don't assume that they're coming from a bad place when they ask. Try to always assume that people are just trying to learn and just may not have the tools to correctly ask the question.
Yeah. All right. We hope you guys have gained something from this presentation, a little bit more insight, and we just want you to take away these couple of points. Ask questions in an open-ended way. Don't assume, because we're all different. We all have different stories.
Take a look at how you interact with people of color and how that would change after this experience of this presentation.
Last but not least, be open to learning from people and meet people as they are.
And young people of color are the future of paddling. So We're a group of paddlers with great paddling skills, and we as a community need to find ways to spread the love of paddling to the future generations so this sport can live on for many generations to come. Thank you for listening to our presentation. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them on our, I don't know.
Yeah. But if you do have particular questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comments and we will try to respond to them. Remember that this is an online channel, and so it is easy to be a little bit impersonal and become less respectful, and let's try to keep ourselves from doing that. Yeah, if you have questions, ask open-ended questions, and we will take them as coming from a place of unknowing, not coming from a bad place. And of course, always our answer to the first question is yes, we do accept donations, and we do have a link to a donation page in the comments.